Mecca, the city that would become the birthplace of Islam, was a significant urban center in the Arabian Peninsula long before the advent of Prophet Muhammad's message. Located in a narrow valley surrounded by rugged mountains, Mecca was a natural meeting point for the trade routes that crossed the desert. These trade routes not only made Mecca an economic hub, but also a cultural melting pot where different people, ideas, and goods converged. It was a city with profound spiritual, political, and economic significance. At the heart of Mecca was the Kaaba, a cubic structure that was the spiritual center of pre-Islamic Arabia. The Kaaba was believed to have been built by Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. It had long been a place of pilgrimage, even before the rise of Islam. It was surrounded by the sacred area of Haram, a region considered inviolable and protected from conflicts and bloodshed. The Quraysh, a powerful tribe descended from Ismail, were the custodians of the Kaaba and controlled the sacred site along with its surrounding areas. This granted the Quraysh not only spiritual authority, but also considerable political and economic power. The Quraysh tribe was made up of several influential clans, each with their own economic, social, and political interests. Among these clans were Banu Hashim, the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Banu Makhzum, Banu Umayyah, and Banu Taym, among others. These clans played a significant role in the governance and administration of Mecca. The power dynamics between these clans often shaped the city's internal politics. The clan of Banu Makhzum, for example, was a formidable political force, and its members included some of the Prophet's most well-known adversaries, such as Abu Jahl. The Quraysh controlled the Kaaba and thus the pilgrimage, which was an important source of income. Mecca's position as a center for religious devotion and its strategic location along trade routes attracted people from all over Arabia. This pilgrimage brought tribes from distant lands to Mecca, where they would offer sacrifices, perform rituals, and trade goods. This yearly event brought great wealth to the Quraysh, as the pilgrimage season was not only a time of religious significance, but also a time for commerce and trade. Makkah's strategic location made it a central trading hub. Merchants and traders from the Arabian Peninsula and beyond would converge upon the city, exchanging goods and conducting business. Their best commodities were spices, perfumes, textiles, dates, and camels. The famous caravan routes that ran from Mecca to Syria, Iraq, and Yemen made it a crossroad for Arabian and international trade. These routes were vital for the economy, allowing goods to flow freely through Mecca and into its surrounding regions. Three major fairs, Ukaz, Majanna, and al-Majaz, would take place near Mecca. These fairs stood as the vibrant arenas where trade, culture, and politics converged. Ukaz, the most famous of the three, lay near Taif, about 18 kilometers from Mecca. Majanna was located 30 kilometers from Mecca,
and yet it was the Quraysh of Mecca who dominated its influence. Traders would arrive from distant lands. It was the beating heart of the Arabian culture. Here, poets would gather in fierce competitions, their words woven with eloquence and power. Each verse was more than mere rhyme. It was a declaration of honor, courage, and pride.
The tribe of Quraysh, the stars that guide the land, custodians of honor, with the strength in every hand.
Winning a poetry contest at Ukaz was like inscribing one's name in history. Their words memorized and recited throughout the desert, the victors became legends, their tribes gaining immense respect. Yet poetry was only part of the spectacle. Ukaz and Majanna were also a stage of thrilling physical contests. Wrestling tested their strength before the roaring crowds. These matches would draw crowds eager to witness display of strength and endurance. Here, men's reputation could rise or fall in moments of intense combat. Camel and horse races were stretched across the desert plains, with daring riders competing for glory. The air buzzed with excitement as the warriors challenged one another in spear throwing and arrow shooting contests, honing the very skill they relied upon in battle. Though these fairs took place outside of Mecca's wall, it was the Quraysh who held dominance over them. Their influence extended far and wide, ensuring their tribe controlled not just the trade, but the culture and the social heartbeat of Arabia. They used these gatherings to forge alliances, secure trade agreements, and assert their authority, reinforcing Makkah's central role in Arabian life.
However, Makkah's prosperity was not without its darker elements. As a major commercial center, the city also involved in practices that would eventually come under scrutiny, such as slavery. Slavery was widespread throughout the Arabian Peninsula, and Mecca was no exception. Slaves were bought and sold within the markets of Mecca. They were considered as a property and were often acquired through war, raids, and debt. Many slaves were bought from sub-Saharan Africa, and some from also native Arabs who had fallen into servitude. The economy of Mecca, like much of the ancient world, depended in part on the exploitation of enslaved people. Slaves in Mecca were employed in various roles, from working in the homes of the wealthy to serving as laborers in the markets. While some slaves gained their freedom, the practice was deeply embedded in the social and economic fabric of the time. Islam would later challenge this institution, advocating for the fair treatment of slaves and encouraging their freedom. Despite their economic success, Mecca's spiritual landscape was far from unified. By the time of Prophet Muhammad's birth, Mecca had become a city deeply entrenched in polytheism. The Kaaba, which had originally been a symbol of monotheism, had become filled with idols representing various deities worshipped by different tribes. According to Islamic traditions, there were around 360 idols within the Kaaba, each representing a different god or spirit. These idols were venerated by the people of Mecca, and they played a central role in the city's religious practices. The Quraysh, as the custodians of the Kaaba, profited from the pilgrimage and the idol worship, which had become an integral part of their social and economic structure. Makkah's society has significant social division between the elite and the poor. The elite, primarily composed of wealthy merchants and influential families, controlled much of the wealth and power of the city. In contrast, the lower classes, including slaves, women, and marginalized tribes, lived in relative poverty. The Quraysh rich enjoyed privileges that were often denied to others, and the message of social justice and equality brought by the Prophet Muhammad resonated deeply with those who were oppressed.
Superstition also played a significant role in daily life, influencing decisions and shaping the customs of the various tribes. The Arabs believed that the world around them was full of signs and omens, often attributing mystical powers to natural events and objects. One of the most widespread superstitions involved the practice of casting of arrows as a form of divination. When faced with important decisions, whether to embark on a journey, arrange a marriage, or resolve conflicts, Arabs would cast these arrows, allowing fate to decide their course of action. This form of divination was not limited to personal matters but also extended to broader tribal and political affairs. The practice was deeply ingrained in their society, and the outcome of the arrow casting could dictate not only the decisions of an individual but the direction of the entire communities. As we shift from the social challenges of the pre-Islamic Arabia, we uncover a surprising depth of virtues that were deeply ingrained in Arab culture. Hospitality was one of the most prized values. For the Arabs, hosting guests wasn't just a duty, it was a matter of pride. They would often sacrifice their own resources to ensure their guests were well taken care of. Poetry celebrated this generosity with entire verses dedicated to the nobility of feast, where wine was also seen as an offering of hospitality. Honor was another cornerstone of the Arab ethics. To break a promise was unimaginable. Arabs will go to the great lengths, even risking their own lives, to uphold their word. This sense of honor was tied to a fierce determination and a willingness to sacrifice for self-respect, even in the face of danger. Living a simple, honest life was another integral aspect of Arab culture. The Bedouin Arabs living in the outskirts of Mecca had a lifestyle unspoiled by the distraction of urban life in Mecca. They fostered a deep sense of truthfulness. Arabs were known for their straightforwardness, their detachment from deceit, and their disdain for treachery. In the world rife with moral corruption, the Bedouin Arabs remained steadfast in their commitment to honesty.
As Prophet Muhammad began to preach, he faced fierce resistance from the Quraysh elite, who feared that his message would disrupt their established power. The resistance to Islam in Mecca was not just a religious opposition, but also a political and economic one. By challenging the dominant religious practices, Prophet Muhammad threatened the very foundation of Mecca's social and economic structures. In this context, Mecca during the time of Prophet Muhammad was not just a city of religious significance, but a hub of economic power, cultural exchange, and political rivalry. The intertwining of religion, trade, and social hierarchy created a complex and often turbulent environment. Yet it was in this very setting that the message of Islam, with its call for social justice, equality, and the worship of one God, would take root and eventually reshape the course of history. Mecca, at the time of Prophet Muhammad's birth, was a city at the crossroad of ancient traditions and emerging new ideologies. Its political power, economic wealth, and cultural influence made it a central player in the Arabian Peninsula. Yet, beneath its prosperity lay deep social inequalities and practices that needed reform. The advent of Islam marked the turning point in Mecca's history. one that would ultimately lead to the city's transformation from a center of polytheism to the heart of Islamic world.